Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk elevate bilateral ties to a strategic partnership in Warsaw, agree to a 5-year action plan to guide bilateral collaboration till 2028. The Indian PM says no conflict can be resolved on the battlefield, advocates dialogue and diplomacy in Warsaw before embarking on a maiden visit to Ukraine. Hundreds of Ukrainians evacuate Pokrovsk town in eastern Ukraine as Russian troops advance further. Russia claims to have thwarted a fresh Kyiv incursion while accusing it of targeting the Kursk nuclear plant. And Thailand confirms an MPox case reported this week is the deadly clade 1b strain of the virus, the second confirmed case of the variant outside Africa. First up, let's tell you all about the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Poland after 45 years. India and Poland have decided to elevate their bilateral ties to a strategic partnership following a meeting between the Prime Ministers of the two nations in Warsaw. The two leaders have also agreed to have a 5-year action plan to take the relationship between the two countries to higher levels while sending out a key message of peace as Prime Minister Narendra Modi heads to Kyiv from Warsaw.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains committed to strengthening India's global presence. Whether it's deepening diplomatic relations or spearheading peace efforts, he consistently emphasizes dialogue and diplomacy as the path forward. His tribute at a memorial for fallen soldiers in Poland underscores his dedication to promoting peace in the region.
यूक्रेन और पश्चिम एशिया में चल रहे संघर्ष हम सभी के लिए गहरी चिंता का विषय है। भारत का यह दृढ़ विश्वास है कि किसी भी समस्या का समाधान रणभूमि में नहीं हो सकता। हम शांति और स्थिरता की जल्द से जल्द बहाली के लिए डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी का समर्थन करते हैं।
His Polish counterpart lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's effort to bringing about a peaceful and just end to conflict in Ukraine.
Not only on defense but on various issues, our understanding has enhanced. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is committed to further deepen India-Poland relationship. PM Modi is also willing to cooperate with European Union. I am confident that PM Narendra Modi will play a very crucial role.
Apart from taking up the Ukraine conflict in their bilateral meeting, both leaders agreed to elevate their relations to a strategic partnership. Discussions covered diverse areas of bilateral ties, including trade and investment, science and technology, defense and security, cultural and people-to-people connections.
फूड प्रोसेसिंग के लिए क्षेत्र में पोलैंड वर्ल्ड लीडर्स में से है। हम चाहते हैं कि पोलैंड की कंपनियां भारत में बनवाए जा रहे मेगा फूड पार्क से जुड़े। भारत में तेज गति से हो रहे शहरीकरण से वाटर ट्रीटमेंट, सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, अर्बन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ऐसे क्षेत्रों में हमारे सहयोग के नए अवसर खुल रहे हैं।
Polish Prime Minister Tusk also expressed Poland's eagerness to support India's defense modernization and reiterated the importance of bolstering India-EU relations during Poland's EU presidency.
Poland is ready to take part in India's defense modernization. We have the necessary technological capability and experts. India is global leader in the field of artificial intelligence, and we are using this technology in several areas, including defense.
Prime Minister Modi also called on Polish President Andrzej Duda in Warsaw. Over the past decade, India-Poland relations have seen remarkable growth, with bilateral trade rising to $5.72 billion in 2023, largely driven by Indian exports. As the two nations celebrate 70 years of diplomatic ties, this partnership has been further strengthened by initiatives like the Social Security Agreement aimed at enhancing workforce welfare and promoting mobility. Bureau Report, DD India.
Prime Minister Modi also met Polish President Andrzej Sebastian Duda at the Belvedere Palace in Warsaw. The two leaders held discussions on various aspects of bilateral relations. The PM also delivered a press statement at the joint press conference with Prime Minister of Poland and later briefing the media about various outcomes of the meeting. India's Ministry of External Affairs said that India and Poland have agreed on a social security agreement as well.
There has been an understanding reached to finalize a social security agreement, which will be of importance for the professionals that are working in each other's countries.
Apart from all this, both the countries also share close cooperation in the field of defense, which is a symbol of deep mutual trust between the two nations. The External Affairs Ministry said that there is a working group which will continue to explore opportunities which exist in the sphere of defense.
On defense, we have a long-standing agreement, and there is a working group which meets. So the working group will continue to explore opportunities that exist in the defense sector for both sides.
Also, while in Warsaw, Prime Minister Modi visited the monument to the Battle of Monte and honored the bravery of Polish soldiers in the Second World War. The monument, which was unveiled in 1999, commemorates the heroic efforts of the 2nd Polish Corps and reflects the enduring bond between Poland and its allies.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid a wreath and paid tribute at the monument of the Battle of Monte in Poland. The monument commemorates the sacrifice and valor of soldiers from Poland, India and other countries who fought alongside each other in the famous Battle of Monte in Italy during the Second World War. For the Prime Minister, it was a solemn moment to remember the valor of Indian soldiers who fought in World War II. Fought from May 11 to May 18, 1944, the Battle of Monte was a crucial and intense engagement in World War II. The battle was fiercely contested, with the Allied forces suffering significant losses. The monument features a headless winged Nike emerging from a shattered column, symbolizing victory and resilience. The urn containing the ashes of the Polish heroes is draped with a shroud featuring the cross of Monte Cassino, adding a layer of solemnity and reverence to the memorial. The monument was officially unveiled on May 30, 1999, during the 55th anniversary of the battle. The monument to the Battle of Monte continues to serve as a poignant reminder of the valor of the 2nd Polish Corps and the broader Allied effort during World War II. Bureau Report, DD India.
And the Indian PM also laid a wreath and paid tributes at the Kaba Memorial in Warsaw. This memorial is dedicated to the generosity the princely state of Kolhapur offered to the Polish people during the Second World War. The PM also went to the Dobry Maharaj Memorial in Warsaw. During the Second World War, the Jam Sahib provided shelter to over 1,000 Polish children and is remembered even today as the Dobry or Good Maharaja in Poland.
The story of the Dobry Maharaja is one of the most evocative chapters in relations between India and Poland. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid a wreath and paid tribute to the Dobry Maharaja Memorial in Warsaw. The memorial is a tribute to the deep respect and gratitude that people and government of Poland have for the Jam Sahib of Navanagar, Digvijay Singh Ji Ranjit Singh Ji Jadeja. During the Second World War, the Jam Sahib provided shelter to over 1,000 Polish children. On Thursday, Prime Minister announced a new initiative called Jam Sahib Memorial Youth Exchange Program to further strengthen this special bond.
भारत जाम साहब मेमोरियल यूथ एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम शुरू करने जा रहा है। इसके तहत भारत 20 पोलिश युवाओं को हर साल भारत आने के लिए आमंत्रित करेगा। इससे भारत के बारे में पोलैंड के युवाओं को और ज्यादा जानने का मौका मिलेगा।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also laid a wreath and paid tribute at the Kaba Memorial in Warsaw. The memorial is dedicated to the generosity of the princely state of Kolhapur offered to the Polish people during the Second World War. The camp established at...
And the PM also dwelt on India's belief in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We will tell you about that a little later. But let me just take you through what has happened just a short while back in Warsaw. Prime Minister Modi has interacted with some top CEOs of Poland. India has been getting the message out to Poland, to its business community, that they should look at India very actively to invest there already. Investments of around $700 million cumulatively have taken place in India from Polish companies. Indian investments in Poland from Indian companies are far higher.
Mr. Modi in my country, I can say that first impression is that Mr. Prime Minister is very friendly and very warm person. So I'm really right now very excited and proud that I could represent our capital group here in this meeting. As a foreign company in India, we can see a lot of changes which happened in the last few years when this government was running, which are really helpful for us to invest in India. And we see that upcoming years are very promising years for India and Poland. So I hope our relation will be more tight.
You can see the Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister, meeting another representative of the Polish business industry. As I was mentioning, India and Poland have mutually invested in each other over the course of the last few decades.
Well, first of all, I must say I'm very honored and privileged to be here. We talked about the values in leadership, trust in particular, at the pace that India is growing. So we are happy to be there to invest and take the opportunity to have such a great talent pool in India as we operate in new technology, IT industry, especially in life science and healthcare sector. So I'm more than thrilled to invest in India. We also discussed about potential investments, responsibilities, and how India is becoming one of the superpowers, top 5 and probably top 3 in foreseeable future as far as economy. So as they say, with great power comes great responsibility, and it seems that India is taking this responsibility very seriously by also influencing not only locally but in our region and effectively in the world. So I took the opportunity to express the gratitude for really becoming one of the global leaders.
Well, those are representatives of the business community in Poland who've just met India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, the PM also dwelt on India's belief in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. Addressing an enthusiastic Indian diaspora in the Polish capital Warsaw, Prime Minister Modi shared his thoughts on the significant contribution made by them in strengthening bilateral relations between the two countries.
The long wait of these people finally came to an end. The moment Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived, he received a rousing welcome by the Indian community, the warmth and exuberance clearly visible.
And we have some more images coming in from Warsaw in Poland during Prime Minister Modi's maiden visit by an Indian Prime Minister. After 45 years, the Prime Minister is meeting certain prominent citizens of Poland. You can see these images there. We'll have more details for you on that as soon as we have them. But these are the images that we've just got a short while ago from Warsaw. Prime Minister Modi meeting some of the prominent citizens of Poland in Warsaw during his visit to that Central European country. These are noted Indologists who have come and met Prime Minister Modi in Warsaw. Indology has been part of the Polish ethos for a long time. They have studied India for a long time, and there are certain Kabaddi players also, I'm told, who have met Prime Minister Modi today. And as I was mentioning, the Prime Minister has interacted with the Indian diaspora as well in Warsaw. Indian diaspora is fairly strong, about 25,000 strong, and he had a very clear-cut message for them as well to act as ambassadors of India and Poland and ensure that the relationship between India and Poland flourishes further.
The long wait of these people finally came to an end the moment Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived. He received a rousing welcome by the Indian community, the warmth and exuberance clearly visible. The visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Poland coming after 45 years. PM Modi addressed the Indian diaspora at an event organized in his honor by the Indian community in Warsaw on Thursday. The Prime Minister was welcomed by the community with enthusiasm. It's about peace and not war. He added that India believes in dialogue and diplomacy to resolve conflicts.
भारत बुद्ध की विरासत वाली धरती है। और जब बुद्ध की बात आती है तो जो युद्ध नहीं शांति पर विश्वास करती है। और इसलिए भारत इस रीजन में भी स्थायी शांति का एक बड़ा पैरोकार है। भारत का मत एकदम साफ है। ये युद्ध का युग नहीं है। ये उन चुनौतियों से निपटने के लिए एकजुट होने का समय है जिनसे मानवता को सबसे बड़े खतरे हैं। इसलिए भारत डिप्लोमेसी और डायलॉग पर बल दे रहा है।
Prime Minister spoke about India's growth story, saying the days are not far when India will become the world's third largest economy. Prime Minister also said that 250 million people have come out of poverty in India in the last 10 years.
भारत और पोलैंड दोनों देशों ने आपस में एक सोशल सिक्योरिटी एग्रीमेंट पर सहमति बना ली है, जिसका लाभ आप जैसे सब साथियों को होने वाला है। साथियों, भारत का विजन ग्लोबल है, भारत का विजन ग्लोबल है, भारत का कल्चर ग्लोबल है, केयर और कंपैशन ग्लोबल है। हमारे पूर्वजों ने हमें वसुधैव कुटुंबकम का मंत्र दिया। हमने पूरी दुनिया को एक परिवार माना है और यही आज के भारत के नीति और निर्णयों में नजर आता है।
PM Modi noted that a visit to Poland by an Indian Prime Minister was taking place after 45 years. He stated that India is the mother of democracy and its shared values with Poland bring the two countries closer. Bureau Report, DD India.
And we'll come back to all that's happened in Poland a little later in the show with a special expert guest as well. For the moment, we're moving on. US Vice President Kamala Harris will make the most important speech of her political life on Thursday when she accepts the Democratic Party's nomination for president contest at Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Kamala Harris will aim to persuade American voters to defeat Donald Trump in November's presidential election and put her in the White House. Her forceful stump speeches have been met by a surge in enthusiasm from voters. The Vice President's rocket-fueled campaign is still barely a month old following Joe Biden's decision to withdraw from seeking re-election in the face of a disastrous debate performance and questions over his age and mental acuity. Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz has branded Donald Trump as weird and dangerous at the DNC in Chicago. And for more on the US presidential elections, we're joined by DD India's Nick Harper live from Washington, D.C. Good evening to you, Nick. It's a huge day for both Kamala Harris and the Democrats on the final day of their national convention. After 3 days of rousing speeches from party stalwarts and others, what sort of an acceptance speech could the VP deliver to cap it all off?
Yeah, Gautam, undoubtedly it's going to be a huge night for Kamala Harris. She'll be giving perhaps the biggest speech of her career to date when she addresses the convention hall in Chicago. She has one bit of business to get out of the way, which we'll likely hear at the beginning of the speech, where she formally accepts the Democratic Party's nomination for president. We're expecting excitement, joy, an electrified atmosphere, much like we've seen in Chicago during the course of this week. And she will be likely trying to paint the contrast between herself, her campaign, and that of Donald Trump. Over the last few days, all of the speakers have been pointing out how they feel Donald Trump would only sow chaos if he were to return to the White House. Instead, the Democrats are using the word freedom, freedom for Americans, and the upholding of democracy if Harris is elected president. We heard on Wednesday night all of the things that they would do to help uphold freedoms like abortion rights, reproductive rights, civil rights. We're likely to see a similar theme tonight from Kamala Harris. But remember, she has managed to win over the Democratic Party faithful. She's undoubtedly managed to win over the tens of thousands who are there at the convention site. But she knows she also needs to win over voters across America, many of which are not sold on her campaign. Just a month ago, her approval rating was as low as Joe Biden's, less than 40%. She's seen something of a bump within the Democratic Party, people rallying around her, but she still needs to win over those undecided independent voters if she's going to have a chance in November. And once this fourth and final night of the DNC has finished, then it's a breakneck race to the finish line. Just about 75 days until November 5th election. Her next big event will be the debate against Donald Trump on September the 10th. Between now and then, we're undoubtedly going to see her out in many of the swing states, meeting up with those voters that she's trying to win over.
All right. And, of course, the Republican rivals, former President Donald Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance, too, have been doing their utmost to whip up their own base and win over the fence-sitters during this period as well. What has stood out in their campaigns during the time that the DNC has been on in Chicago?
I think the biggest thing is just how much they have done. Donald Trump, over the course of the last month, has been quite quiet. He hasn't really been out on the campaign trail. He's done a couple of events, a couple of press conferences from his residences in Florida and New Jersey. But during the course of this week, we've seen him and his vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, out in swing states every single day. Today, Thursday, He's in his fourth swing state of Arizona. He'll be heading to the border in a couple of hours' time to speak about immigration, to push the idea that Democrats have been weak on immigration, letting through millions of illegal immigrants under Joe Biden, and selling an idea that he will be much tougher on immigration. Remember, he's promised mass deportations if he's re-elected. And then on Friday, he'll be in another swing state. The DNC will have finished in Chicago, but Donald Trump will be campaigning again in Arizona and also in Nevada. So he does seem to have spent the week trying to do as much as he can to try and steal some of those headlines from the Democrats. Of course, much of the attention has been on them and their convention in Chicago.
All right, Nick, as you said, the next big thing to look out for will be the 10th of September. But till then, I'm sure there will be a lot flying across from both ends to further heat things up. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment. Now, in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia repelled a Ukrainian incursion into the Bryansk region on Thursday. A Russian bomb struck in Ukraine's Sumy region near Kursk, killing 2 people as well. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian attack on a ferry in the Russian port of Kavkaz has caused a fire, with damage and casualties still being evaluated. Russian President Vladimir Putin has accused Ukraine of trying to target Russia's Kursk nuclear power plant as well. And hundreds of Ukrainians have fled the strategic town of Pokrovsk in an evacuation train on Thursday as Russian forces advanced in the Donetsk region. The evacuees, including families with young children, are uncertain about their future as the Russia-Ukraine conflict intensifies in the region even further. Now, moving on, Israeli forces have intensified their operations in central and southern Gaza on Thursday, clashing with the Hamas. This escalation follows President Joe Biden's call for a truce and hostage release, with the White House stressing the urgency before upcoming Cairo talks. Meanwhile, the IDF has conducted extensive airstrikes against the Hezbollah and its sites in southern Lebanon amid escalating violence.
Israeli forces pressed deeper into areas of the central and southern Gaza Strip as they battled Hamas fighters on Thursday. This escalation came shortly after US President Joe Biden urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to finalize a truce and hostage release deal. The White House emphasized the need to resolve issues before upcoming Cairo talks with the US, Israeli, Egyptian and Qatari negotiators. This follows US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's recent visit to the region. The IDF said on Thursday that it carried out extensive airstrikes against Hezbollah terror group sites in southern Lebanon overnight, as the spiraling violence between the two sides showed no signs of losing momentum. On Wednesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant declared Israel's readiness against threats during their respective visits to northern Israel and the Gaza Strip. During his visit to the Ramat David Air Force Base in the north, Netanyahu said the military were ready to meet any scenario defensively and offensively.
I am here at an Air Force base to closely observe our preparations against threats both near and far. We are prepared for any scenario both defensively and offensively.
Meanwhile, the displaced Palestinians in central Gaza are on the move again after the Israeli military issued new evacuation orders for Deir al-Balah, citing safety concerns.
Over the past days, new evacuation orders have been issued, affecting over 100,000 people that have been pushed out now of Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah area. They're on the move with the few belongings that they have, looking for somewhere where they can put up their temporary shelters.
At the Democratic National Convention in Chicago on Wednesday, a mother of U.S.-Israeli hostage Hirsch Goldberg-Polin, held in Gaza, broke in tears as she and her husband made an emotional plea for a ceasefire deal.
At this moment, 109 treasured human beings are being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. They are Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. They are from 23 different countries. The youngest hostage is a 1-year-old red-headed baby boy, and the oldest is an 86-year-old mustachioed grandpa. Among the hostages are 8 American citizens. One of those Americans is our only son. His name is Hirsch.
With the international community, including the United States, pressing for a resolution, the situation in Gaza remains critical with ongoing military actions and humanitarian challenges. Meanwhile, escalating violence between Israel and Hezbollah has complicated the broader conflict. Bureau Report, DD India.
An MPox case reported in Thailand this week has been confirmed as being the clade 1b strain of the virus, the first in the country and second of the variant outside of Africa confirmed case, that is. Thailand on Wednesday said that the infected 66-year-old European man had arrived from an African country. United Nations International Organization for Migration has appealed for $18.5 million in assistance to provide healthcare services to people impacted by the MPox outbreak in East and Southern Africa. Earlier, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the epicenter of the MPox outbreak, recorded over 1,000 new cases last week, after which the WHO, that is the World Health Organization, declared it to be a global public health emergency. More than 500 people have died in the latest outbreak and over 16,000 others have contracted the disease since the start of this year. Let's get you more on this. DD India's Chris Okam has joined us from Kinshasa. Hello, Chris. Now, Congo is the epicenter of the ongoing global health emergency. Are cases and fatalities still rising? And what is being done to contain the disease?
Yes, cases have continued rising across the DRC, and on Wednesday, the health authorities here said that they had recorded 100 suspected cases. 22 of them were confirmed, and 2 of the patients died. Now, those cases were recorded in the capital, Kinshasa, which has better health facilities and infrastructure. In other parts of the DRC, the situation is very worrying. There have been concerns by the Africa Centers for Disease Control that some of these figures that you just mentioned, about 16,000, more than 16,000 people who have been infected and over 500 deaths, are an underestimate because there has been a very low rate of tests conducted in some of these areas, like Equateur Province, which has recorded quite a number of cases. So there are areas in eastern DRC where ongoing conflict has been happening. Many people have fled their homes and are living in crowded camps where they cannot keep a social distancing, and the virus has been spreading in those areas. So what's being done is that the DRC government has been holding a series of meetings with international health organizations to come up with a coordinated approach to deal with this outbreak. They are bringing their resources together and expertise to try and end this outbreak, stop this outbreak from spreading further across the country.
All right, now, Thailand has officially become the second nation to confirm the detection of the clade 1b variant, which was found infecting a foreign traveler from Africa. What is being done in the region's affected parts to ensure the disease does not cross international borders?
So the government has stepped up surveillance measures at its borders, especially at the international airports where travelers are going to foreign countries. They are screening travelers, passengers, to ensure that they do not, transmit this virus in the countries where they're going. That is something that the World Health Organization has made very clear, and so they are following these measures. But the DRC is a very large country, and there are borders where health officials are not stationed. And so there's been concern that they have to step up and deploy more people in all the porous borders of this country. And the government has announced that it needs more funding, but it hasn't been able to provide all that the Ministry of Health required. So there's a big challenge that the DRC is facing in trying to scale back this outbreak that is swept across the country and has led to fears of a major global outbreak.
Well, let's hope that the measures to battle this disease are strengthened further, because that is perhaps the need of the hour. Thanks for joining us for the moment, Chris from Kinshasa. And still to come on DD India News Hour, we'll be speaking with our expert guest about the elevation of India-Poland relations. And in fact, we can go across to our guest as well. The Indian government is set to more than double its disbursement under the production-linked incentive scheme this financial year. And the Indian government's monthly economic review says food inflation in India is expected to fall in the coming months.
This is a story of making of India's space surge and stellar decade of space, scientific feats scripted by India in the history of planetary explorations.
Stories of Indian scientists operating from the very first mission control room in a church and transporting rocket parts by bicycle and bullock carts. This is the stuff that India's legendary space stories are made of.
India is inching closer to the sun. India unraveled the secrets of Mars. India has its national pride placed on the moon.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Gautam Roy. Let's now take you back to our top story, which is about how India and Poland have decided to elevate their ties to a strategic partnership. There are a lot of things in motion between India and Poland. Already a very strong relationship that has sustained through the decades, and now an Indian Prime Minister has gone there after 45 years. To talk about it, we have with us Ambassador Manjeev Puri, former senior diplomat, joining us from Delhi itself. Good evening to you, Ambassador Puri. What do you make of what's happening today as far as India and Poland are concerned? A strategic partnership now being announced, and of course there's talk of a social security agreement too.
Gautam, thank you very much. And I'm very glad that you've used these particular expressions. You know, Poland, in the minds of many people in India, we just don't get it that it's a rather large and a big part and an important country in the European Union. Of course, it used to belong to the former Soviet sphere, and we had relations at that time which were tremendous. But Poland is a large country, a large economy, and an economy which has particularly certain areas of great interest to us. In the old days, it used to be coal, where there is a great preponderance in Poland. I am so glad that, you know, we have visited Poland. Prime Minister has gone there after many years, but it's important he's gone there. And we have elevated the relationship to a higher level, a level that we have with many European countries, and it's important. You mentioned the social security agreement. This is something that India is doing with many countries where there are Indian nationals residing, because it allows for, you know, what is called totalization. You earn social security in one place. When you come back to India, the monies get transferred. So it's a very good sign. And I'm really glad that, you know, this step was taken. It was long overdue, but I'm glad that it's happened. So Gautam, give me a second. Let me show you this photograph. This is a photograph of Prime Minister Modi with Donald Tusk, the current Prime Minister of Poland. He was then the President of the European Council and the then President of the European Commission when the Prime Minister was in Brussels for the India-EU summit in 2016. So he's known Donald Tusk, and it's a good idea to build on this chemistry.
Yes, certainly. And Poland will have the leadership of the European Union as well coming in the coming time, in just a few months from now. That will also help perhaps India-EU relations and the trade pact that we're trying to get finalized as well with the EU. But to talk about India and Poland, just tell us, you know, the extent to which the relationship is already developed between these two countries, because a lot of investment, Indian companies invested in Poland, far more than Polish companies in India. And where is the scope of you know, enriching this further, enhancing this further? How will the strategic partnership help?
Gautam, again, an interesting point that you just made. You know, in the old days, we used to be recipients of Polish technology, especially in the coal sector. But now as things have moved, as Indian companies have gone up the pecking order with technology availability, with finance, Poland is a member of the European Union. It's a country which is a perfect stepping stone for you to access the European Union market. It's also a country where perhaps in various ways, there is a little bit ease for companies coming from India to set up shop and start working as compared to the very old established countries such as France and Germany, where there are a number of barriers to entry. So the way I look at it is, Poland is a very good gateway for India, for Indian companies and others to be in the European Union. Let's not forget, the European Union is the world's second largest economy, just after the United States. And there are a great deal of opportunity. Poland has also been a very friendly country to India. I mentioned to you the good relations during the Soviet days, but this relationship has continued. Look at a simple fact. When the Ukraine crisis erupted and we needed to pull out about 18,000 of our students, Poland was the country that really helped. So it's a relationship. Indians are going to Poland, working there, companies are setting up jobs. It's a relationship that can only go in the northward direction.
Certainly. And there was, of course, a lot to be said by the two leaders of the two countries, Prime Minister Modi and Donald Tusk, about what's been happening in Ukraine and how that should be handled. And that is a strong message again going out from a neighboring country of Ukraine, and Prime Minister Modi will be heading there as well very shortly.
You're right, Gautam. You know, the Ukrainians, especially under Prime Minister Tusk, their position is, of course, part of the European position, but it's a bit different from the main European position, which is very akin to the American position, which is, let me say, extremely hardline as far as Russia is concerned. This doesn't mean that Prime Minister Tusk, etc., are any less sort of focused on that. But, you know, the ideas that we bring forward, that this is not the time for war. Give dialogue a chance. Try and see what can be done, while respecting the national sovereignty and all these particular factors. So, you know, Poland is today the gateway for leaders to visit Ukraine, because the only way you can go there is by train, since the Polish airspace, the Ukrainian airspace has been closed for the last couple of years, and only military aircraft fly out there. So there is this entire element. Poland, as the neighboring country, is perhaps by far the most important. And the fact that Prime Minister has gone there, it gives him also an idea to have most up-to-date, recent briefing on what is happening in Ukraine. Let's not forget, Prime Minister met President Zelensky on the sidelines of the G7 summit when he went there in June of this year. And he has met the Russian president, and he's conveyed the same message that, you know, we'll pass on the messages, but try and see if there's way forward negotiated settlements.
Certainly. But let's hope that progress is made towards peace as well in the coming days, now that Prime Minister Modi is also visiting Ukraine. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Ambassador Puri. Now, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has arrived in Washington, D.C. on Thursday at the invitation of U.S. Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin. India's Defence Ministry has shared a picture of the Defence Minister and said, and I quote, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has landed in Washington, D.C. He is on an official visit to the United States. Notably, Rajnath Singh will be undertaking an official visit to the U.S. From the 23rd to the 26th of this month at the invitation of U.S. Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin. During the visit, the Defence Minister will hold a bilateral meeting with his U.S. counterpart as well. Let's now get you some more national stories. India's President Draupadi Murmu presented Rashtriya Vigyan Puraskar or National Science Awards 2024 in Delhi on Thursday. The awards were conferred to the celebrated biochemist Govindarajan Padmanabhan, who was selected for the first Vigyan Ratna Award, the topmost science award in the country. All right, now we're taking you across again to Poland in Warsaw, where Prime Minister Modi is departing from that country. These are the images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has visited Poland, an Indian Prime Minister visiting that Central European country after a gap of 45 years. These are the images of Prime Minister Modi departing from Warsaw. That's the Indian ambassador there, Ms. Malik, that he has said goodbye to, and then of course a final wave goodbye before he enters the aircraft. A significant visit to the Central European country of Poland by Prime Minister Modi, where the relationship between the two countries has been upgraded, elevated to a strategic partnership. The leaders have also agreed to a 5-year action plan, which will be put in place to ensure that this strategic partnership is taken towards a logical direction that will ensure that the multifaceted ties that India and Poland have get more heft, get more meat on them, be they in the areas of trade, economics, investment, defense, science and tech, innovation, entrepreneurship, clean tech as well, a big part of that, renewable energy. So all these aspects will be worked upon further during the course of the next 5 years. That's the action plan to put the strategic partnership in motion, which has been agreed to. The other aspect, of course, is Prime Minister Modi's meeting with a bunch of Indologists. Again, India and Poland, the relationship goes way back, and there's a lot of interest that's been there in Poland for a long time, where India is concerned, where even Sanskrit has been studied and taught at universities. And India has also studied its history and culture, particularly in its universities. And these are some of the noted Indologists who have met Prime Minister Modi today as well in Warsaw.
खुश हैं कि 40 वर्ष के से ज़्यादा के बाद फिर भारत के प्रधानमंत्री आ गए और वही प्रधानमंत्री जिन्होंने उदाहरण के लिए अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस का स्थापना की और जिससे भारत की संस्कृति का दुनिया में ज्ञान बढ़ रहा है। आज के मिलन के बाद ऐसा अनुभव हुआ कि प्रधानमंत्री बहुत ही इस पर ध्यान देते हैं कि भारत की संस्कृति, भारत की परंपरा, भारत की प्राचीन चिंतन जो है वो हमारे विश्व में बढ़ जाए और हमसे उन्होंने ये कहा कि हम इस सेवा में हमको करना कोशिश करना है कि लोग ज़्यादा जान लें, न सिर्फ पॉलिटिक्स बल्कि यही सांस्कृतिक पक्ष जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंधों में है, ये इस पर हमने प्रधानमंत्री ने ध्यान दिया और हमसे आखिर में हमसे कहा कि आप कोशिश कीजिए कि भारतीय परंपरा, भारतीय ज्ञान और चिंतन लोग जान लें, समझ लें अच्छी तरह से। ये तथाकथित इंडोलॉजिस्ट का कर्तव्य है।
Now, moving on, the Indian government may increase disbursements under the production-linked incentive scheme to nearly 15,000 crore rupees for the financial year 2025. That is double of the 6,800 crores in the year 2024. The end of May showed combined investments under the PLI scheme having hit 1.3 trillion rupees, or about $15 billion. Covering 14 sectors, the PLI scheme was launched in 2021. Large-scale electronics manufacturing sector, mainly mobile manufacturers, will account for 41% of the total disbursals. 4 sectors, automobiles and auto components, advanced chemistry cells, textile productions and specialty steel will receive incentives for the first time this year. Now, food inflation in India is expected to fall in the coming months as plentiful monsoon rains have replenished water levels in reservoirs. Finance Ministry's Department of Economic Affairs said in its monthly economic review on Thursday. According to the latest data, retail inflation in India has come down to 3.5% in July 2024, the lowest in September 2019. The report highlighted that the steady progress in the southwest monsoon has helped Kharif sowing. GST collections in the first 4 months of FY25 have surged due to a widened tax base and increased economic activity. This growth is reinforced by a double-digit rise in e-way bill generation, indicating sustained economic momentum. Manufacturing and services sectors have also shown strong performance, driven by robust demand and expanding capacity utilization. In July 2024, e-way bill generation signaled a rise in economic activity. And the report also noted that the Indian stock markets have witnessed another bullish run as both the Nifty 50 and BSE Sensex 30 indices have soared to new heights. Now, the overall rate of inflation in Sri Lanka for July remained at 2.5% as against 2.4% recorded last month. The inflation, as measured by the National Consumer Price Index on a year-over-year basis, remained within the central bank's targeted range of under 5%. Sri Lanka had witnessed a runaway inflation in 2022 during the peak of the economic crisis. The central bank had adopted tight monetary policy measures to rein in inflation and expects it to remain under 3% till the first quarter of 2025. And time now to get you all the sporting updates as well. The Board of Cricket for Control, that is the BCCI, and the England and Wales Cricket Board on Thursday announced the fixtures for India's 2-month-long tour to England in 2025. India will play a 5-test match series from June to August spread across London, Headingley, Birmingham and Manchester, marking the start of a fresh World Test Championship cycle. India yet to win a test series in England since 2007. They came close 3 years ago in 2021, but it ended in a 2-2 draw. The series was suspended after 4 test matches, with India leading 2-1 due to a COVID-19 outbreak in the Indian camp. The last match was then played in 2022, which England won by 7 wickets. Leeds will host the first test match from the 20th of June, while Edgbaston will host the second test 8 days later from the 2nd of July. The third test match will be played at the iconic Lords from the 10th of July. Old Trafford will play host to the 4th test from the 23rd of July. And the last test will take place at the Oval in London from the 31st of July. The England and Wales Cricket Board has announced on Thursday that the Lords in London will host its first ever women's test between India and England in 2026 as well. Indian women's team will travel to England for a white ball series in 2025. A 5-match T20 series will be followed by 3 one-day internationals. India will return to England in 2026 for the one-off test. The first match of the T20 series will be played on the 28th of June, while the 5th match will take place on the 12th of July. This will be followed by the ODI series. 2-time Olympic champion Sweden's pole vaulter Armand Duplantis was victorious again as he won the pole vault competition in the Lausanne Diamond League in Switzerland. The Swede needed just 4 jumps to clinch victory with a height of 6 meters. He then later raised the bar to a meeting record of 6.15, clearing it on his 3rd attempt. In Paris, Duplantis set the world record for a 9th time with a jump of 6.25 meters before defending his gold medal. Portuguese footballer Cristiano Ronaldo broke the world record after hitting the fastest 1 million YouTube subscribers on Thursday. The football star launched his channel on Wednesday, quickly amassing hundreds of thousands of subscribers within hours. The 39-year-old and 5-time Ballon d'Or winner announced on social media, saying the wait is over, the channel is here. Subscribe and join the journey. Just a couple of hours later, after his first video went live, 1.69 million subscribers had already joined his channel. Ronaldo, who has 112.5 million followers on the X platform and 636 million on Instagram, is set to take over YouTube next. Also, the England and Wales Cricket Board has announced on Thursday that England will play a men's test match against Zimbabwe next year after a gap of more than 2 decades. England's first test against Zimbabwe since 2003 will take place in May 2025. The Zimbabwe match will be followed by 5 tests against India starting June 2025. The 5th test against India, scheduled to end on the 4th of August, is the last test England will play before it bids to regain the Ashes in a 2025-26 series in Australia. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get us all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.